Good night. Have one Johnson. Night. God is good. God is good all the time. My name is Irma J. Spritzer. I'm here to give you short news on tonight. We're gonna start with development. They say why is redevelopment is so difficult in New Orleans because we have so many abandoned buildings. I just put that out. Talk about like 2 3 days ago about Charity Hospital. You know, we have so many great buildings that's abandoned and just sitting there. You know, Charity Hospital is sitting there because they thought FEMA was gonna help them with that, um, with the building. So you have so many great buildings, um, just like the medical center right there on Jeff Davis. They've been sitting there since after Katrina. So that's another great building. So you have so many um, abandoned buildings here in New Orleans, but it's hard for the get developments to help, take part of it because some of them saying the crime rate, the insurance might be high, so it's hard to get development here in New Orleans to help take on these projects, that big old projects that's abandoned. you know. So for years, or even decades, to have been embarrassing our schools on the city square. And more repeatedly have become a magnet for crimes and in some cases death trap. So a lot of these abandoned buildings, you know, a lot of them they say like crime, drugs, all that going on in abandoned building. Just like a young girl had went in abandoned building and fell from the top and died. So they have to um, do something. Somebody, the developers or someone gonna have to take on a lot of these abandoned buildings because so many people is going inside these abandoned buildings and doing all kind of stuff, even getting themselves hurt or either killed. So we have Joe Gigon had developed some of the city's finest hotel. Now he a development for a lot of hotels. You know, uh, Bergman and Orleans and Whitney and Young, a lot of hotels he developed in partners with. So he working now on a new Rubenstein hotel. So they coming out with remember Rubenstein, the mid clothing store. So they're gonna be a Rubenstein hotel. Over the classic Canal Street clothing store. So he about to take over that. So he is the one is taking on some of the projects. So he let the children museum stay in a building that he owned. Next to warehouse district. Over a year rent free. So he coming, he's stepping forward and helping out. He giving millions. To charity. So there's someone is taking, stepping forward and helping, being a developer and helping, taking on a lot of these projects. He'll look at it that anything that get done that improves, the quality of life, improve New Orleans battlefield. Yaga didn't want to appear on camera, but he did agree to let us and our partners at the time picking unit record and meeting with him at his office. So we could ask him about the less successful side, of his real estate empire. So they've been trying to get a lot of development to help them partner up with trying to get these abandoned buildings. So it's life to Charity Hospital now. You have developers trying to come forward with Charity Hospital. So they have a meeting on that. So soon we'll find out about who gonna take on Charity Hospital. And they said that project might last about 5 years to complete. So the bright light, the relighted phone, neighbor support, activity based, in Bywater, to empty plaza, the tower, the skyscraper downtown. So it's a lot of empty buildings, The long abandoned Market Street power plant, what used to be Mercy Hospital, Lindsay on Blige, the medical center in Mid City, what I was saying on Jeff Davis, they all set vacant, you know, and undevelopment for years under Jackal ownership. So Jackal, he the one is under all his ownership. A lot of these abandoned buildings is under his name. Here's the ownership. At the best target for the Archer of Delec, a lot of these buildings is vacant, but it's under someone that's under him that's not taking ownership of getting it done. So there are large projects. These old properties. History properties. There are a big difference between the project that we have and the Readily project. So Plaza Tower. Why? Why is the tower is still vacant? That's the question they're asking. It may fall down. Or tumble over. But pieces. It fell from the top and struck passively in 2021. So a lot of these abandoned buildings, they're saying it's dangerous. Forcing to put two big nets on top of it. So they planning on putting the blue things on top of the roof. Because it's been abandoned for so long, so the roof is taking effect on it. So the tower was the city tallest, skyscraper in 1969. But it's been vacant since 2002. Now that was before Katrina hit. Katrina hit in 2004. So this been vacant since 2002. That's been vacant a long time before Katrina hit. So Jacko brought it, and he is the one that have all these vacant, abandoned buildings and stuff. So he brought it in 2014 after Katrina. So hoping to turn it to the 17th floor into a banquet hotel. He loved to deal with a lot of hotels. Top 28 stores into luxury condos. So he wants to turn it to condos. He bought it in 2014 to turn it to condos, but he never did nothing with it, and it's still abandoned. So he said he been close to getting finance. So he have all these abandoned buildings just sitting there. But he said he was trying to get finance, but it did not fall through multiple times. So why don't these projects come to future? That's what everybody wants to know. Why it hasn't come to future yet. So many these is great buildings. These history buildings. Charity is a history building icon. And the one on James in the Mid City area. That is a great building. Look at the tower. All these is great buildings that still is sitting there. So they're saying that outside lenders, don't want to touch New Orleans, because of high crime, and dependency on tourists, a high insurance rate. So they was thinking about outsider lenders, but outside lenders don't even want to touch no project of New Orleans because they say the crime rate is high, and they said the insurance will be high. So it's hard to get any kind of development to come down here to help rebuild these old abandoned buildings, which is history. So they're saying it's difficult in New Orleans. They say it's difficult in New Orleans, because you also always need all of the issues debt right offhand. You know, because of the a lot of, first they said it was a crime, the insurance gonna be high, so now they saying all the issue will have to be laid down on the line. So they were saying it's difficult, to have the development here in New Orleans. So Paul Flower developed, who says that he feels Jack will pay. So uh, Paul Flower agreed, with Jack Plain, why he have all the abandoned buildings sitting there. Was a lot of them is under his name, and they sitting there, So he said he was trying to get finance, to get all these buildings up and running, So he bought the old Mercy Hospital, from Jack. So Paul Flower saying he brought the old Mercy Hospital from Jackal last year, and planned to spend 110 million to turn it into a state of the art elder care faculty, and that never happened, So he said his finance from federal housing and urban development department had hit snag, you know. Also, every developer, is looking for some sort of federal assistance to federal program, you know. So they buying all these buildings, and just letting it sit there because they waiting on assistance, from the federal, some kind of program, to help get these abandoned, developed, and so just like with charity, we waiting on charity to come back, and it was time they thought FEMA was going, you know, help them get charity up and running, and that never came through. So charity just sitting up there, and we see that a lot of these abandoned buildings are sitting there because they're waiting on finance from a federal program. So especially for a project like this, Paul Flowers says that he take the risk of buying lost abandoned, property because he wants to help the city. He wants to help the city. So he wants to help the city, but they're getting so many abandoned buildings in their name and they're sitting there because they're waiting on finance. So sometimes, they pay off, like the old World Trade Center, did. So you remember the Trade Center, that's in New York. So when he redeveloped it recently as the fourth season, the first year exceeded first year project. So that paid off. Certain project will pay off once you put the effort into it. So this August, Jaguar the door of Plaza Tower shut. But last month these graphic artists got in anyway and appeared on a lash about 80 feet tall. 80 feet tall. I heard that on the news the other day. In the air. What if a kid fell to his death from there right now? So someone falling to their death. It did happen. They get the children going into these abandoned buildings, and the person went way up on the high floor. 80. She came down 80 feet down. So someone falling to their death because that exactly what had happened. That's what really had happened. So that's why they're looking into all these abandoned buildings now. It's time to get all these abandoned buildings done. It's time to find these development to get these buildings done because they're starting to go. The children going into the building, either doing crime, drugs, and now the children going in the building, climbing up and falling from top to bottom. So in July at another building, he used to own. 18-year-old Anthony Carlson and his friends got into abandoned Market Street power plant, to celebrate their graduation. So they went in an abandoned building to celebrate their graduation. And they hurt it and they died. So so a lot of things is happening in these abandoned buildings now. You know, some of the abandoned buildings sit there for so long, and when the kids go in there, it's not even stable. They might just touch something and just fall straight down to so many floors. So that's why we need every children to stop going in these abandoned buildings. You know, because these abandoned buildings is not standing up strong. You know, so one we have outside lenders. You know, they don't want to touch New Orleans. You know, due to high crime. You know, high insurance. I say crime is everywhere. You know, so I think if a developer invests in New Orleans, you know, it will be a good investment. You know, sometime, you know, like Paul Flowers said, you might have to take a risk. You know, and sometime it may pay off. You know, may not, and sometimes it may too pay off. You know, so George Yiga, you know, he is development. You know, who uh who take on find this hotel. Now he a development. He take on a whole lot of hotels. You know, he just took on a new project, Rubenstein Hotel. You know, Rubenstein Clothing Store for men. Now they about to have Rubenstein Hotel. He took that on. You know, so he the person that take on hotels. And he also let children museums stay in his building. You know, rent free. You know, so he pay $110 to charity. You know, so a person said he tried to help. You know, to city. You know, so Paul Flower, a developer, he agreed with Jack Payne that Paul bought old Mason Hospital from him last year. You know, so Paul Flower said sometimes you have to take a risk in buying a large abandoned property. You know, he said sometimes it may pay off and sometimes it may not. That's just a gamble you have to take. You know, so all development is looking for some kind of assistance, federal program to get this abandoned building off the ground. You know, so so what I understand, the Charity Hospital is sitting, being abandoned, and they thought FEMA was going to pay for it. You know, so we have so many abandoned properties that are history. You know, but what I think is if a whole lot of development come together to get the project done, you don't have to let it sit there and wait on a system. You know, we have to come together and get these abandoned up and running because it's too dangerous to just sit there because you have children going into these abandoned buildings now. Then you have history buildings just sitting up there. We need charity up and running. We need the medical center on Jeff Davis up and running. You know, you got a lot of history. You know, building is being abandoned, sitting there waiting on a system. You know, if we have enough development to come together and try to get these abandoned buildings up and running, you know, we don't have to sit there and wait on a system. We can get these buildings up and running. You know, because I myself will take on one of these projects. You know, because we have Charity Hospital. You know, they're looking into, you know, to try to get this investment going. You know, we have Lindsay Blinds, the medical center. You know, needs to be up and running. You know, there was a history building way before Katrina hit. You know, we have Six Flags. It's not history, but it was a place where tourists come down and go and have, you know, have the children now at Six Flags, you know. So there was a place, investment where a whole lot of people used to go to. You know, that needs to be up and running. Then we have the old plaza, you know, that used to be out there in the east. You know, we need that up and running. You know, because you don't have no mall, no plaza, no nothing out there in the east. You don't have the Six Flag. You don't have the mall. You know, so we need the mall to come back. We need the Six Flags to come back in the east. You know, so these there are many more, but just the ones that I came up with. I thought of at the moment. You know, these great um, properties. You know, that needs to be back up and running. It just been sitting there too long. We don't have to wait on federal assistance. We get enough development to come together to try to get these abandoned buildings up and running. We don't need no assistance. You know, um, all we need is developments to come together. And to get this done, get these projects done. I understand y'all scared of crime. Crime rate is everywhere. You have your own business in another state somewhere, and you still have to be careful. If nothing happened to that, so it's stuff is happening all over the world. New Orleans stuff is not the only state with crime. You know, um, you're scared about the insurance will go up. You know, sometimes just like Paul Flower said, sometimes you have to take a risk. You have to take a risk. And these projects here, I think it'll be a good investment. These is history buildings. These ain't no any kind of building. These are history buildings that's just sitting there. So I would take on one of the projects my own self. So we get enough developments to come together. We could get a lot of these buildings, y'all bang the buildings up and running. These not no any kind of buildings. These are history icon buildings. It's just sitting there. It needs to be up and running. I name four of them so far, but there are many more. Charity Hospital. I would love to see Charity Hospital come back. They had the best doctors there. Lindsay Blige, the medical center. Jeff Davis. The Six Flags. We need some kind of excitement back in New Orleans. We need some places where when the tourists come visit, you don't have to just come once a year for Mardi Gras. Have other activity here for when they come down here. They can they have their children say, let's go to Six Flags. So that'll be a good investment. And the plaza, the mall. We can either get the mall back or we can get a script mall back. It doesn't matter. They need some kind of mall. We need the Six Flags, some kind of activity to be going on out there in the east because we don't have anything going on in the east out there. So this was the four that I named, but there are many more abandoned buildings and properties that needs to be back up and running. So that's what they're saying. A lot of these developments took on these projects. That Jaguar, he has so many under his name that is sitting there because he waiting on assistance. He waiting on some kind of finance from the federal to get a lot of property up and running. So I say let a lot of developers let us come together. Because these buildings, abandoned buildings, needs to be up and running now. Because we have children going into the building, hurting themselves now. They're going in there, graduation, they just wants to celebrate inside an abandoned building. So we need to get these buildings up and running. So that's all the show news I have for you on today. Y'all have a blessed night and I'll see y'all on the next video.